welcome. We're here today to launch our Every Mind Matters Roundtable series, and this is going to be a series where we focus on psychosis awareness. So we're going to start today's conversation with introductions. I'll go first. My name's Serena Chaudhry. I'm the Public Health Director at the Early Psychosis Intervention Clinic.
And I'm Ashley Lees. I'm a child adolescent psychiatrist, and Serena and I started the Early Psychosis Intervention Clinic about 8 years ago. So I see patients, and I'm the medical director, and part of our bigger plan to really bring awareness into the community about the first episode of psychosis and the importance of early intervention, and that early intervention is not only in the clinic, but it also happens in a community, and bringing education to people to try to understand what young people are going through so that they can seek help earlier. So we're really excited about doing this series, especially because you guys are local, and we're hoping that our community can, especially the young people, can get inspired and feel comfortable that, when we're talking about mental health, that it's not, that all of us, deal with some sort of mental health struggle. So anyway, you guys can introduce yourselves.
Well, I'm Delvin Bro. Published author, Unbroken, former athlete with the New Orleans Saints, born and raised in the Iberville Project.
And I'm known as Walter Kangle Slim Williams with a legendary group here by the name of Partners in Crime. Yep.
I feel like we need to have some music.
Pump the party.
Well, maybe,
Hey, you guys can edit that later.
Yes, totally. With your permission.
There you go, you're all good.
Yeah, so we wanted to start today's conversation just by allowing each of you a few minutes to talk about your own experiences with mental health, mental illness.
Me myself, I've always known about, the mental health issues, but I can say that I didn't know enough about it until I went through my own, traumatizing moment. And this was in 2022 when my son passed away. I had a hard time, dealing with it, and, the issues that I was having mentally with holding on to knowing that someone, actually, murdered my son. It kind of spent my mind into, a different realm. On top of that, when my son passed away, 2 days after Hurricane Ida hit, so I had to leave the city 2 days after he passed away. Me going through all of these things, not being able to bury him, because the lights were down, and things like this. These things kind of spent me into a mental state that I knew, and my family knew, that I wasn't myself. So this is when I began to fully understand that this really is an issue,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's deep, man. That's deep. Yeah, for myself, mental health started when I was young, but I didn't really get the proper education on it until it was 2009 when I tried to commit suicide at LSU in college. The doctors wouldn't clear me from playing football, and football was just my life, it was my passion, it was my way out, my ticket out, right? And when they told me no, everything I went down this spiraling hole, I felt like I was being judged, because it's like, man, I'm up moving, I'm walking around. My doctor said I was gonna play football in the future, and y'all telling me no. I'm like, what? I can't do it. Like, wait, what? So I fell into this deep, dark depression, this deep state. I stood in my dorm room for hours, weeks at a time. I wouldn't even come out, even though I had class. I never would go to class. And I was being there taking pills with red berry Ciroc. I'd be making me a drink, taking pills, hoping that my heart just explode. And one day I was walking to the gas station to go get me some more red berry Ciroc, and my guy Sherman, he was like, hey Chip, what's up? Which was my nickname. He's like, hey Chip, what's up, man? How you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm good, man. Mind you not, I'm lying to him, right? I'm hiding the pain. Mind you not, I just said, I just was about to commit, I just committed my plan to, commit suicide. So now I'm putting on this front. I'm hiding. I don't want him to know what I'm about to do or what I'm planning to do, right? So he's like, absolutely. So I'm like, I'm like, man, he was like, man, look, just make sure you check on your mental. So as I was going into the gas station, I closed the door. Something like words just came up, a voice just popped up in my head. It was like, yeah, you need to worry about your mental. You need to focus on your mental. So I shut the door and I went back to my dorm room. I went found the help that I needed. Once I found the help through the psychiatrist at LSU, I found out my diagnosis of my psychosis was, depression, ADHD, insomnia, and anxiety. So I was like, wow. Yeah, man, it's great. It's crazy. So that's when I finally even had the education on mental health, because I wanted to know, like, why was I feeling this way? Mind you, not growing up, I was trying to commit suicide at 9 years old. I didn't know, the abuse, the trauma, all that was going to have effect on me and my, teenager or my adult life. Right? I didn't think, because I'm like, okay, it's in the past, it's gone. But it kept creeping up on me. I'm like, can't sleep. I'm in night sweat. Like, I'm waking up with chills. I'm like, what's going on? I could just see my dad just physically just beating my mom. I'm going through the abuse. I see it every day. And I'm like, man, something is wrong. Something is disturbed. I got to get the help. And that's what, man, I had to. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, so it's like your story is so similar to the patients that come into our clinic, because it's usually in their first major mental health crisis, which is psychosis for us. And it's a lot of our, most of our patients either have bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder. But that it was not like that even when you were younger. Like that approach didn't even happen.
I don't think we were noticing that it really, really was an issue, in our younger years, because like he spoke of earlier, when we were doing these things that weren't, natural, our parents just would look at us and say, oh, he's being bad, or he's doing this, but they're not realizing that mentally we are going through these things, And when we witness these things at a young age, I guess people don't believe that it can happen at a young age. They feel like that, it's something that comes about once you get up in age. But as he said, as him being 9, and, I started in the music business when I was 15 years old, and I wasn't even able to be in a nightclub. So I'm here. I'm seeing these things that's going on with these adults. You know what I mean? Not only that, I'm being used as a workhorse, because he write that hit song. Come on, get in the studio, you gotta write it, you gotta write it. So I'm in here at 15 years old, trying to write. I gotta go to school. You know what I mean? When I leave school, I got these guys coming to the house and they're like, we're gonna take them to the studio. And my mom signed off consent on everything, and every now and then my big cousin used to come with me. But being in this atmosphere at 15 years old around a bunch of adults means I have to act a certain way around these adults. I never wanted to act like a kid, So that means I wanted to do the things they were doing. I wanted to, go see the things that they were seeing. And some of them was exposing me to these things, Not saying that it was all right, but none of them exposed me to anything that was harmful to me. But I was exposed to things that I wasn't supposed to be exposed to at 15. And by my mind, constantly, as a writer, because this was my main thing when I got into the music business, I have to make hit songs. That's the only thing that's going to help me compete with everybody else, is a hit song, nothing else. So when I'm in a studio, my mind is only saying I have to make a hit. So I can go through 5 different beats and start writing these songs, and I have to throw them away. Now my mind is being crammed, with words, and the stress that's on my mind of having to write this hit song, it became a problem. Because now I have to deal with that stress. I have to deal with the stress of being at school, with dealing with the people at school, plus I have to deal with everyday life stress. And as I became older, it only got worse, because here it is, now you have a girlfriend, now you have a kid, so these things just kept getting piled on. Yeah, it's not just me anymore. So like you just said, now you're hiding these things, because now it came to a point as to where I wasn't just the guy that was trying to be a rapper. When it came to the point to where, legend, he's here, now I'm here, everyone knows who I am. So now I have to put on a facade. So when I'm out there smiling at everybody, shaking hands, saying, hey, how you doing? And they're saying, what's up, legend? I'm like, how you doing, man? How you doing, brother? They don't understand. When I leave that place and I get home, everything shuts down.
Man.
You know what I mean? Everything shuts down. Because when I'm in my own element, that's the spot where I say, everybody just leave me alone. Like, you know, I'm tired. I don't want to deal with this. Like, but they don't understand that mentally, I did have something going on in my head with dealing with the everyday life situations, plus being used as a workhorse to continue making these hit songs. Like, so I do feel like, you know, when we were younger, nobody realized that, you know, and they don't realize the trauma that we were put through. And I don't believe my mom, you know, put me through any trauma, because when I started to rap, it just was a gift that I had. Someone heard it, they came to her and said, look, your son has this gift. You know, we tried it out, and once we tried it out, you know, sparks happened, magic happened, you know, so of course she's gonna be like, well, God, this is something my son wants to pursue. Okay, son, you can do this. And once the money came, you know, everything was there. I mean, I moved out of my mom's house at 16. I was living in Park Royale at 16. You know what I mean? People couldn't understand that. You know, I'm living on a bayou at 16. So to me, it was like the best life ever. But my mom could not understand, you know, at 16, how could you have this much money? Because she wasn't really into like the show money, to what's going on and all these type things. Because once I made a certain age, I didn't want my mom to know about my finances, what I had. You know, I had a shoebox of money in a closet she knew nothing about, you know. So with me doing these things at such a young age and going through it, I know that it became a problem for me, even in my future when I went through the traumatization with my son. You know, all of these things came back. All these things. When I was laying in that bed by myself, because I have a camp house out in Mississippi, once he passed away, like I said, Hurricane Ida hit 3 days later. Me and my family had to leave. You know, me and my fiance during that time, and my kids, we had to leave during that time. So here it is, I'm in a hotel in Gulf Shores while a storm is happening back at home. I just lost my son 2 days ago. All evidence has probably been erased by the storm. You know what I mean? Right. Are they gonna really catch these guys? You know, so I'm sitting in Gulf Shores wondering, are they gonna catch them? They're not gonna catch these guys. That's when the evil thoughts start to come in, you know. And I can say this, you know, I've never committed anything wrong, but during this time, mentally, I wasn't in the right state. I wanted to go look for these guys myself and do things to them that weren't, you know, right in my head, that I knew weren't right. So all of these things are happening. It's a storm. I'm constantly crying. I'm going through all of these things. Now it's to the point as to where my fiance can't take it. He's constantly crying. He doesn't want to let it go. He's angry now. He snaps at the drop of a dime when you say something wrong. Leave me alone. You keep bothering me. You know what I mean? And these were the signs that something was taking place. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes, indeed.
At the same time, you deal with that. I come back to Mississippi. Me and my fiance, we're on bad terms. Of course, you don't want the kids around me because, Walter, you're going through something and you're screaming, you're doing all of this. When they leave, that sends you into another spiral. Because now I don't have my family. Now me and her are feuding. You know what I mean? She's at one house in New Orleans. I'm at my house in Mississippi at the camp house. But mind you, one of the worst things ever when you're going through it, being alone. You know what I mean? Being isolated. And a man in his own thoughts are one of the worst things.
Say that again, man. Say that again.
It was one of the worst things ever for me. But I thought that was my outlet. I'm leaving everybody alone. I'm out here in Mississippi. Can't nobody just pull up to my house. You know, because a lot of people didn't want to ride, you know, take that little ride out there, you know? So I'm out there, I'm by myself. You know, I'm on the balcony at night by myself. I'm steadily crying. Here it is, I'm drinking, you know? I'm drinking, I'm taking sleep aids, you know, Xanax, all of these other things. And that's when, you know, the mental, I guess, hallucinations and thoughts started to come in. And I didn't notice it myself until, you know, I was isolated and I did these things and I found myself sitting on the sofa saying, you know, why me? Why is this? Why is this? And I'm just thinking that I'm asking God, why me? No, once it gets to the point to where you start to answer yourself and you say, why me? Maybe it's because I did this and yeah, that's what it is. And that's when, hold up. Something's happening here. I need to get the hell out of this house by myself. I need somebody to come out here and, you know. So, yeah, you know, being in that state and going through it, it opened my eyes and it made me realize, you know, when people used to tell me that someone passed away in their family or something like that, I would be like, oh, I feel sorry for you. I'm sorry. It'll get better. I would never tell anyone that ever in my life again. Because when it was told to me, you'll get better, I was looking at these people like I wanted to knock their head off. Like, oh, it's gonna get better. And I'm looking like, what do you mean get better? Do you know what I'm suffering with? Do you know, the depression I'm going through and everything, all of these other things? And it made me realize, like, I was unthoughtful to a lot of people's feelings in the past. I just was a guy that just was like, suck it up. You'll be all right. It happens. It's life. We all go through it, until I went through it. And it changed me as a human being to look at things a little bit broader and not be into myself so much, thinking that everyone can handle things like I'm able to handle them. Because when it came to my point and everybody was thinking I can handle things the way they could, I could not handle things the way they could.
So what did sharing your stories, sharing your internal struggles, what impact did that have on your social circles?
The impact of me sharing my story with my inner circle, my social circle, they took it with open arms. They took me in with open arms, just because they knew I was in a deep, dark state. I was trying to find my way out. Right? They were allowing me to mess up. They were allowing me to have my little spaz out moments. If I'm depressed, man, take some time for yourself. They were allowing. So they were being more open until I found the help. Once I found the help, I started coming around with this energy, this light, oh, bless, like you feel me? Look, I'm like, Delvin is here. Absolutely. I'm like, I'm here, and it's because I got the help. I wasn't afraid. I had to hold myself accountable. Right? That's what I did. I held myself accountable. I said, yes, I suffer from mental health. Then I went and got the help. And then once I got the help, I started helping other people. I started bringing the light around other people. I have right now 6 of my close friends have their own therapists. Just because I went and got the help, they have their own therapist. And like I said, just sharing that story, just sharing my story to them was just like, man, this guy's being vulnerable. He's being open. This guy is telling us his secrets, bro. Like, no man do that. Like, we wasn't taught to tell our secrets or tell somebody why you crying or what's really wrong with you or what's your emotion. Well, we wasn't brought up like that. You got to be tough. But now it's like, if I can be vulnerable to somebody, I can let so much stress, I can let so much ease off, I can relax more, I can do more things, I can feel confident. So yeah, just sharing my story with my social circle, it was amazing. I'm glad I did it.
For me, it was a little bit different because I guess I was my own worst enemy. Me coming up in life and doing what I've done, I've always never made myself as accessible to people. So I was always into myself. So it wasn't a thing, it wasn't easy for me just to go to somebody and say, hey, I'm dealing with this issue or whatever, because it was the type of person I was. Like, I wouldn't come ask you for nothing. I would work it out and make it happen, on my own. My family knew these type things. My family also knew that, Walter has done well with himself. He has a good career. Don't bother him. Don't do this. Cousin Walter or whatever, he'll be there if you need him. I was always the guy that was like, okay, if you need this, you need that, here you go, here. Just leave me alone from this point, right? So I was my own worst enemy. People were scared to come to me and even ask me, hey, bro, is something going on? Because I've always been so to myself, in this musical realm and everything that I'm going through, to where it was hard for them to even come say anything. So me keeping this facade on, still going out here doing all of these things, there was a time when my mom just said, I'm coming to stay with you, right? So the whole while she's coming to stay with me, she's concerned because she sees something that I don't see. So with her coming to stay with me, she actually worked as an evaluator. And, she cooked for me. She did these things because I lost a little weight from the depression. I wasn't eating right. I wasn't, I wasn't sleeping at all. And of course, they've always called me Kango Slim. So imagine me getting slimmer. When she sat there and she monitored me, one day she came to me and she said, would you go see somebody if I asked you to? And actually I told her no. I'm like, I don't need to see anybody. I know how, I know what I need to do for myself. So one day she just was like, I'm tired of it. We were about to leave and I'm, okay, Ma, that's what we'll do. So when she finally talked to me and I asked her why did she do it, she said, many days you sat on that sofa and I've heard you, mumbling words, And she said, you know, you'll mumble words and then you'll say something like, oh, yeah, that's nice, I like that. Her not knowing me as a writer, I can hear a tinker outside, something that goes tinkling, and they could just go tinkling, but in my mind it's going tinkling, 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 tinkling. And when it's doing that, now I'm putting words to it, like, you know, my mind going, so I don't say the words, I'm doing this. So she hears me going, and I'm just sitting there and she's like, no, something's wrong. I don't know if he's talking to himself, what is he doing? And I'm like, oh no, Mom, I'm just writing music, you know? But when she saw it repeatedly happening all through the night, all during the day, when she tries to say something to me while I'm going through this, while I'm mumbling and I'm going, she'll just say, Walter, and I'll be like, what? Like what, Mom? Wait a minute, now he's snapping. You know what I mean? He has no reason to just talk this loud or whatever. You know, that's when she said, you know what, enough is enough. I need to get you evaluated. So once the evaluation happened and, you know, the doctor was talking to me and she was like, look, you do have an issue. That's where I was told, you've been used as a workhorse your whole life from a kid to create this music. And mind you, I don't know if you know our history, I never wrote any of my music. I just go in there and I say it and I memorize it. Every song I've ever made since 15 years old is up here. You know what I mean? And my label thought that was the most amazing thing ever. So I thrived off of that. Yeah. You know, when other artists was in the studio and they were sitting there writing their rap and everybody's ready, I'm like sitting there and I'm just listening to the beat and they're like, say, man, you got to start writing. And I'm like, I'm actually writing while I'm here, like, you know? Then I'll go in there and I'll just let loose and, you know, it comes out, turns into magic. But I've been doing that since I was 15 years old. So when the doctor came back and she was like, look, I'm gonna diagnose you with audio hallucination. And I'm like, I'm not hallucinating. She's like, listen, it's nothing bad. She said, actually, you have a beautiful mind. She said, a beautiful mind. She says, it's just like any book writer or anybody else. She's like, to me, it's amazing that you're able to even do what you have done all of these years since the age of 15. She's like, some people probably would have cracked up before now. Like, you know, with all of the words you're cramming in and, you know, the music and the things and, you know, that you're going through. So with her telling me like, no, you're brilliant. You have a beautiful mind, Walter. It's just that you have to find an outlet. So she's like, what's your outlet? I said, well, my outlet is when, you know, I'm stressed or I'm going through something, I go to the studio. She shook her head and she looked at me and she said, look, you love music that much? She's like, yeah. She said, it's a gift and a curse. She's like, you have to get away from it. She said, you keep running to the very same thing, that's the problem. Because you love it so much and it's so much a part of you. So here it is. You have to find some type of outlet, you know, go painting, do something, find something else. What else do you like to do? I said, music. She said, that's it. That's your problem. You run to it. It's like that's all you know, you know? So now I have to step back from the music. I had to tell my partner, look, I have to step back for a while, dude. I can't go to the studio, I'm gonna just chill, you know what I mean? Now I'm in Mississippi, just going to the beach, you know, I have a camp house in Bay St. Louis on the Jordan River. I went and bought a boat. Now I'm doing boat and you know what I mean? I'm doing all of this type of stuff, but still, it became a problem because I'm away from my element. And it's like I have a lust to get back to the studio. So what did I do? 1 week after, okay, you're on the boat, you're having fun, you're doing all this stuff. I pop up in the studio. So I'm just like, look, I'm not gonna work. I'm gonna just sit here, you guys, you know, have fun. And everybody's happy, like, yeah, go in here. He's in the studio with us, he's chilling. And I'm sitting there, but here it is again. I'm not doing any work, but I hear what you guys are doing. So of course, the music is still there. When I left, it's like, damn, I wish he would have did this better. Now I'm calling these guys, giving them mentorship. Say, bro, if you would have said this or did this better, you know, I'm taking his work home now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Now I'm not thinking about my work, I'm thinking about this other person's work. So it was a problem for me. So I had to disconnect for months from music, which is why you don't see us regularly in the studio on Instagram and all that like we used to, because I had to take a step back. And my partner had to realize that it was a real problem, and he didn't want to see me crack up. So that made him have to step back as well, because I was the main musical source of, partners in crime. So with that happening, it eased my mind enough for me to say, you know what, she was right. Now that I'm away from this, I feel much better, Then I came all the way away from it and just became more of a mentor and started doing my little writing, at home or whatever. And I stopped doing it so much. Instead of me writing for the 8-9 boys, Weeby, everybody else, writing this stuff for all of these people locally, I just shut it down and I just started working with my friend Mike Karen at the Universal Music Group, which means now I'm writing songs trying to get placements with the bigger artists. So I don't have to write as much. I have one song, okay, I think Chris Brown could sing this. Here you go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's that, so I kind of had to scale it down before I wound up,
Going crazy.
somewhere else mentally.
Well, it's like your identity and who you are is like something that no one can take away, and even onset of a mental illness doesn't take it away necessarily, but it can almost become like your safety blanket that you're used to, but it can it leads to you kind of holding up and withdrawing and going more inside, which is the curse part, because it's comfortable to be there, but then when it starts not making sense and it's not leading to anything healthy,
right?
Of you being
and
skeleton weight.
I really needed someone just to say that, it's it's the gift and the curse, Beautiful, brilliant mind, but it could be a curse, Walter. You could be walking around with those same words, saying them on that street, just like you see that guy that's walking, talking to himself. That could be you. And then when you realize, okay, this guy may be crazy, she's like, some of those people are professors you see out there. These people have used their mind in a different way, but they couldn't control it. Maybe back then they couldn't realize what they were going through. But now we can put a finger on it and say, this is what it is. And you can become that person. So guess what? Beautiful mind, don't let yourself slip too far. Hurry up, get away from it now. Now that you can grab a hold of yourself and you know what to do to keep your mental state, healthy.
Yeah.
I love the fact that this person was able to identify your strengths within the challenges that you were having, right? To see your mind as beautiful and to see it, what was going on is both, right, a blessing and a curse.
Because once she came to me and she said audio hallucination, I'm like, audio hallucination? What is this? I'm like, you crazy. And she's like, no, you're taking it the wrong way. And that's what I think everyone is scared of.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I think everyone is scared of. Because once you say hallucinations, they're like, no, I'm not crazy. But she's like, it doesn't automatically mean you're crazy.
Well, that word crazy is just.
Are you detached from the rest of the world, whatever it is, you know what I mean? So that fear is the fear that I think a lot of people that are suffering, they're scared to hear those words because they don't fully understand what these things mean, or they feel like when you diagnose them with that first diagnosis and you say these type of words, they feel like you think they're not normal or they're, I guess, unhuman-like mentally, So that's the real issue of getting them to notice it and understand it, just like I had to do.
Yeah, and that's, why we're here today, to talk about these symptoms and these experiences in the open in the hopes of destigmatizing and inspiring some younger people to get help sooner. So you're both sitting here in good places with beautiful minds and beautiful spirits. When you look back on your lives and your experiences and your struggles, what were some of the early signs and symptoms? Looking back as adults now, can you pinpoint a moment when things changed for you?
Well, if I think back, to my earlier years, I would say I became more of an angrier person. You know, even, you know, in my younger years, you know, I don't want to hear nothing. Leave me alone, you know. And I used to think it was because I just wanted to be in my own world and people were just aggravating me. But really that wasn't it. I was really depressed and going through it because maybe I didn't live life as a 15-year-old. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The rest of my friends they were still like going to the park, playing basketball, doing regular stuff. And it's like my life fast forwarded. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like from 15 to adulthood. So now I'm looking at my friends like they're behind, like, hey, y'all slow, I'm not on that. I'm on some other stuff when really they're being normal kids. But to me, going through everything that I was going through, I was feeling like, nah, y'all are behind. Look, I'm going ahead, you know? And with me not living that normal life that, you know, these guys lived as 15 and 16-year-olds, they went to college, they went to do these things, you know, like normal people. I feel like those were some of the earlier signs that, you know, Walter is really, really, you know, going through something, because he goes off at the drop of a dime. You know, he thinks he's bigger than us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like growing up too fast.
Because of growing up too fast. The growing up too fast thing was one of the things that was one of the worst things for me, like, you know. But I guess that being depressed, because after a while, I started to grow tired of doing the adult thing. I wanted to just go to the park and play that ball. I'm like, I'm in California, you know, around all these guys in the studio, and they getting it going. You know what I mean? It's a world I could go on. I really can. But that's what put me in. It put me in a depressed state after a while, because I really wanted to do, you know, other things, you know, with my friends and stuff. And the depression came in as to whereas when I tried to go back to do those things, they didn't even want to mess with me. Right. Oh, look at him too much. Now you want to come hanging with us and want, ooh, ooh. You know, y'all don't want me hanging, ooh. So guess what? I'm left to be on that side, making them think that their lives wasn't as good as mine because of what I was going through. And I didn't have the knowledge of someone to sit there and say, hey, bro, you're normal just like them. You know, I had guys around me that were saying, you a king. That's why you here. You here because you did something different. You a chosen one. You know? You know, and then I got these guys that saying this, that own the label and stuff, because I'm a workhorse for you. Yep. You know, you're making all the big money, you're making good money, but you a king, you this, you a workman. Look, let's go. We in the studio today. We got this one in the studio with you today. You know, and there it is, me as a young kid. Man, I'm 16, I'm around some of the best. You know, everything's going on. I'm in a nightclub when all of my friends ain't even old enough to get in the club, but I'm standing in the club on the sofa with a bottle of Dom Perignon. Yeah. You know? It could be traumatic, bro. Trust me, it can be. Yeah. So, you know, that's why I say, I talk to a lot of these artists and a lot of the younger artists and say, don't let it go to your head. Keep yourself sane. Don't get involved into all of these things. You have to realize who you are, what age you are, and you got to normalize your life, which is something that I didn't do, and I didn't have someone there to normalize it. Why? Because I kept myself to myself. Like I said, I separated my mom at a certain point from everything because I didn't want her to know what was going on. Of course, she knew I was doing music. She used to check in on me and all of that type stuff, look at my finances. But there was a part of me that I kept away from her. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? She's just thinking that this is her baby that's making a good living for himself and he's living, you know, good. But she didn't know the other side, like that was being hidden from her. So I think my earliest signs were the depression from just doing that, yeah.
Yeah, I would say for myself, like I said, I didn't really know about mental health growing up. Like I said, I didn't get the education on it, but when I started seeing these signs or paying attention to these signs, or when I was about 8 years old, it's been going on because I've been seeing trauma in my life since I was 4. You know, my dad abusing my mom, and it's all you saw. So I want to say depression, suicidal thoughts. I had like seasonal, I think it's like seasonal bipolar disorder. and it sucked. You know, I was in a dark space a lot as a young kid, man. It's like from 5, 6, 7, 8. And then when I turned 9 years old, that's when I was, you know, thinking about taking my dad's gun and just shooting my brains out just because I was tired of it. You know, if I could get the help, if I could talk to somebody, I would have been fine. But my dad had this rule of what happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors. And if any of my business get out, I'm gonna do something worse to you. There you go. So me getting up every day with welts on my butt, on my legs, on my back, can't sit down in class. I didn't have no outlet. I didn't have a guidance counselor. I didn't have a teacher that I could have just went and talked to, because I was afraid if they found out and they tell my dad, like, hold on, we need to have a meeting, that he finds out that we talking about, oh, it's over. It's over. So I was very fearful of anything, you know, to say about my dad, because what may possibly happen when I get back home. So I want to say my early signs were, you know, when I was about 8, 9, when I finally figured out that something is really wrong with me. I'm depressed a lot. I'm in these dark spaces. I don't feel love, right? I felt useless. I felt worthless. I felt like I was ugly, like nobody. I feel like girls didn't find themselves attracted to me for some reason. And like I said, it was just all the abuse that I was dealing with, the mental health abuse, the physical abuse, the verbal abuse from my dad. It's just, it made me feel less esteemed, bro. I was going down that spiral. Bro, at a young age, now that I can see it, I was going down this spiral. Like, what's wrong with you, little kid? Come on, Delvin, get up, little Delvin. Like, bro, come on, man. Don't let words affect you. You're fine. You're loved. People love you out here. It's just you in this situation that's temporary. And it's temporary pain, right? So just, you know, if I could tell anybody out there, if you're going through those moments, just remember, it's temporary. God got something bigger for you. So maybe want to be placed in this dark space, because it'll allow you to learn yourself more. It'll allow yourself to find the Lord, because that's the one who found me. I found him, and he got me up out the light. So find him. Be appreciative of the dark space. You know what I'm saying? Because you ain't going to do nothing but elevate. You're elevating yourself. You're learning yourself in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Because God got something bigger for you once you get out of that space, and it's crazy.
Well, what was it like? Kind of tell me about how this all collided with your football career, and you know what it was like to kind of be going through, you know, a lot of very intense moments in your mind, but then in your world you're going through like intense opportunities that require a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations.
Yeah.
What was that like?
You know, just going through my football career and having these psychoses or these things or these issues that were trying to attack me. You know, I had to put on this facade, this front. That's how I got through a lot of my trauma until I turned 25. Is when I really faced myself. I was running from it until I faced myself at 25. But going through those moments of that intense pressure, it felt good, because I knew I was in the dark. Yeah, I've been in those dark spaces. I've been in intense situations before that nobody knows. So I can easily put on a facade and go, man, what's up? You feel me? So that's what it was for me. You know, I got through it like that. I didn't want nobody knowing about my past until I was able to be vulnerable enough to talk about it, right? So once I became free, once I forgave myself, I forgave the situation, I forgave my abuser. And then it was up. You know, I'm free. We vibing now. So there's no intense situation for me no more. I'm here to help the next person get out of those intense situations. You know, so
especially athletes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I tell patients, especially our patients that are going through intense psychotic experiences, and then they come up on regular life things that are difficult. I'm like, you got through hearing voices that demons were coming to take you away. Like, if you could get through that, we're going to get through the finals.
Yeah. You can do anything.
You can take these tests.
You feel me?
Right.
You can do anything, and that's man. It's a beautiful thing to be able to, you know, to talk about it. And that's you know, like you say, that's one of the main issues, getting them to the point to talk about it, because they all think once they talk about it, we're gonna look at them and judge them, you know, in some type of way. So, you know, my thing is, if you notice something or you're able to notice something wrong with yourself, there's nothing wrong with saying, you know, look, I'm not right. Mentally, I'm not here. I'm not in this place, like, you know. And I guess kids that's being younger kids, I believe it's always good to attach yourself to someone that is trustworthy of you. You know, because sometimes us as young kids, we don't want to go to our friends, but we'll respect what you would call OG.
OG, yeah.
You know what I mean? So can you respect and trust him enough, or that person enough, that gives you positive energy, not the negative OG, that gives you positive energy to say, hey man, this is what I feel, or this is what I feel like, for them to at least accept it and say, look, let me get some help for this little brother. You need the help, let me take you over here, let you talk to this. Because you have to listen to your kids sometime and not think that your kid is always the problem because they're bad at home. You know, oh, he's bad at home, he probably was doing something at school. No, we really need to listen to our kids and think about the things that they tell us are going on in their lives, and not just throw it on the side because you feel like he's a kid and he's an adult. You know, because sometimes these adults can be wrong and they can lead us to these other things, you know?
Right. I mean, that's important. Go ahead, Delvin.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's important on so many levels. Listening to your kids, right? And we know, listening to what's happening in their lives and listening to how they feel, right? Because a huge part of our work is being able to get kids, young people, into treatment earlier. Because the earlier they get into treatment, the better chances they have to, you know, going out and doing the things they want to do as kids and leading healthy and happy lives. But speaking of kids, I wanted to go back to something each of you touched on. We talked a little bit about like substance use, and we've talked about sports, and both of those things, specifically contact sports and substance use, both have potential negative impact on young brains. And so I guess I just wanted to ask each of you to speak about your experiences with them.
Me, you know, in my earlier years, you know, I've experienced, you know, a lot of different things that I shouldn't have when it comes to like substance, you know, abuse with the drinking, the marijuana and things like that. But once I became more of an adult and I couldn't go to sleep, I was prescribed Xanax, is what they prescribed me. It was a little 0.5 Xanax. Every time I felt depressed or like I just wanted to get away, that was my go-to thing. Now I'm not using them just to go to sleep. I'm using them to make myself go to sleep, to run away from the things that I'm going through. We all know that this, with drinking, alcohol, smoking weed, it's like a bomb. You know what I mean? It's like a ticking time bomb that's just waiting to explode. So when people get into these depressed states, whatever their vice is, or if they feel like they want to run to these things, they're going to run to them. My advice is to stay away from them. I'm not, you know, like you guys therapists. I can't tell them how to do that or whatever. All I can say is just give you the advice to stay away from them, because it can become a problem, because I knew it became a problem with me. Even when I went through my trauma with my son, you know, I went to bed on Xanax, woke up on Xanax, and while I still had the Xanax in my system, I still was smoking. I fell back to sleep. I'm in the house sleeping all day. Before you know it, I got dishes piled up in a goddamn sink. And I'm waking up like not caring, you know what I mean? It just started to lead to something else, you know, and, you know, all I can say is to that is, you know, if you're going through something, please try your best to not run to these things to look for relief, because they will only give you worse problems, and it will spin you down another spiral, you know, to another spiral.
Yeah, I would say for me, the trauma things that happened, you know, at a young age. I want to say playing football. You know, I started playing football at like 4 or 5 years old. So I'm indulging in head-on collisions at 4 years old. Mind you, now I ain't knowing that it's gonna, you know, mess with my brain later on down the line.
Hey, you make a hit, pow, get up, let's go.
Harder, yeah.
So the crazy thing was, my dad, he loved the fact that I was a hard hitter. I get to smash and boom. I'm playing linebacker, you know, at Harrell and Goretti. I'm young and I'm just crashing. Mind you, now I'm feeling dizziness. You know, I make these hits. I'm rolling on. I'm getting up a little slow at times. But my dad, get up. Come on, you gotta be tough. Let's go. Get up, boy. No, men don't stay down there. Boys don't stay down. Get on up. Let's go. Suck it up. Excuse me. I'm just getting excited. Get on up. Then I'm like, I'm like, Dad, but I'm like, Dad, but like my head is hurting, like, but mind you, all that is symptoms, you know what I'm saying? And it took a toll on me up until I got to high school. 9 years old, I wanted to commit suicide. Broke my neck my senior year in high school. So all that depression, all that stuff, is just bottled on me. Right. So I know what you mean with the dishes piled up.
When you got up from the dizzy hit, and he said, "Get up, son." You smacked him on your helmet again. Bow. Like, yeah, what? So now you're walking. Let's go, boy.
Let's go. I'm telling you, man. And it's starting at a young age, and our parents not understanding how much it could really affect you in a later on in life. I mean, if my dad would have got education on what mental health is, I think he probably would have started our careers a little later. Not 4 years old, you know what I'm saying? So, so that's why I say it's important that we gotta share this message, just so even the older generation can understand where they messed up at, where they can get the help the younger ones. Because my son ain't playing football until he's 9. He playing flag football right now.
That's what my son is playing.
Absolutely.
That's what my son is playing, and his mom said that she wanted him to actually play, tackle football. So she was like, "Can you register him with Harrell up, where your house is or whatever?" And actually, I was thinking about doing it this year, but he's 8.
Okay,
And from you telling me, these things and talking to me about these things, now I have to look at this from a different approach. With him being 8 and crashing these helmets and being that go-getter, I really, really have to look at this from a different angle now.
I suffer.
I'm glad,
I suffer. I suffer.
Not to part of me right now wants to be like, maybe wait for high school.
I'm kind of pushing him towards I want him to be smart. Like he loves building things, right? So we be around the house. I just have him building up anything. Like, let's put Legos together. There you go. Yeah. I'm trying to change this mindset because he loves football. Dad, man, my dad played football. He played for the Saints. That's all he's talking about. I want to play cornerback just like my dad. And I'm like, no, let's find your own path. That's what your dad did. Yeah. Let's find out what you like. Let's go play basketball. Let's go paint. Yeah, right? Let's go do something else to see what he really like. We go fishing. He caught a fish before me. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, he got his own niche. There you go. Let me navigate you through this niche. Let me help you with your journey. Because football is cool, but it ain't for everybody. And I've learned it ain't for everybody. So that's my answer to that.
I have a nephew that plays. He's a run back for Ole Miss, Ulysses Bentley. And I'm gonna have to sit down and have a talk with him too.
Yeah, just vibe. Yeah.
He's been playing football since he was a kid, and next year he'll be going, pro or whatever. But it's something that's dear to my heart now after listening to your story. And this is why things like this, these, talks are good. Because, just listening to you, bro, I have a lot of things I have to rethink and a lot of people I have to talk about that's in that world, Yeah.
Right, well, then that's the goal is, right, creating space for conversation like these to happen in hopes that this will create other conversations beyond here.
Right. So this is great.
Yeah, I have one other question because gender has come up a couple of times, and working with the younger population, there's this tendency to not want to talk about feelings, to not talk about those things, especially if you're a boy, especially if you're a young Black boy here in the city. How do you guys foresee? So what we're trying to do is learn from our community how to create the right messaging, like how to reach people so that they are reflective, and then, notice, like what you were saying, notice that I just don't feel like myself, and then be able to communicate with someone, that they trust. So how would you guys advise us to try to reach the community where you grew up, where it's difficult to reach?
I believe the way to do it is to use the familiar faces and the people that they look up to, because like I said, there were guys in my neighborhood that I looked up to, and they were able to get across to me, and talk to me, and it's just like when I go into these schools, or I go to a school, for somebody else, the kids, they look and they say, "You such and such, I saw you on that commercial, I saw you doing this, I saw you doing that." I think just utilizing the people that they can trust and they look up to tell them that it's all right, it makes it better, because it's hard for you to just walk in there and say, you guys need to come talk to us. They're looking like, I don't know this lady, shit, I don't know who the hell she is, but it coming across from somebody that they know, and it being into a intimate setting, not just saying, oh, y'all come over here, I just help you here. No, being in an intimate setting with them, whether it be going into the schools, and doing these, relief programs where a certain grade comes down at a certain time and you're able to get them in an intimate setting and talk to them about it. I believe, to me, it worked. It has worked. I've reached a lot of kids that way, that are in the system, whether it be male or female. But I just believe it just takes somebody that they know, a face that they know, or someone that they can trust in, and say, okay, you just like me. You from the hood, somebody that could relate. You can go in there and say, hi, Tyler, I just want to talk to you. And I could go in there and say, what's up, I'm Tyler? You all right?
Yeah.
And he would understand me more than you, because I speak the lingo that he speaks.
I was actually, on that note, I work in the Juvenile Justice Intervention Center. I used to work there a lot, and it was fascinating how many, and most of the kids there are 14, 15, and even just having an adult that doesn't look like them, like actually sit and like hear them and talk to them, like so many were like,
they were into it.
Oh,
Yeah,
totally into
definitely.
it. Like I was like, there were so many cultural barriers, but
Right.
even just like the two humans, I have an adult that's sitting here just hearing
Somebody
me.
that I don't know, just take the listen to just
Just
me.
listening that
Yeah. So it can go both ways. Like some want that and some want the other. Like, so what do? I guess we have to find that medium and find out which ones are looking to speak to
do
someone
both.
outside. Yeah, or you can have both there, so that you can feel it out and know that, as we speak to this person, he's gravitating more towards me than he's gravitating towards you. And I guess it's a good cop, bad cop type of scenario. Like, we're both there speaking to him, but I see him gravitating towards you. So look, you take the lead and try and get him, like, to where we need him, or you take the lead and talk on the outside, whatever it is. So it can go both ways, but I speak from my experience. And just,
Well, I think that there's just a desperation for like connectedness, and for people, like you mentioned, finding someone that you do trust, and sometimes they come in a different way than you expected. But when you do have those opportunities, and when kids are trying to connect, and when they are trying to tell you something, even if you think that you're not the person that they're like, you're obligated to kind of be in the moment and listen, and not be dismissive, and because they might not try to talk to anybody else for the next number of years while they're caught up in their own mind.
Right.
So as we're sort of like wrapping up, and we're working to kind of change the perception of psychosis itself in this community, how do you have any advice on that? Like, how do we, and what can you guys do in your, being public figures, being people that are recognized, to sort of help change the narrative surrounding psychosis, to help people better understand?
I mean, I believe, it comes to talk. Yeah, just a conversation. Just a conversation.
Let's go. Talk about it. Bring a conversation about it, right? Go around passing out flyers, letting people know we have camps, right? Like I host football camps, and it ain't just a football camp, it's a mental health football camp. So we ain't just focusing on football, you getting a mental, there you go, right? We want to, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we want to spread the wealth and the knowledge to, not just the older adults, but to the young kids, because they growing up, it's their time. So we got to put our time and invest in them right now. So just having a conversation, bringing camps, kids want to be active. So let's do a camp. Why not host a camp and then do the component of mental health? Like, so it's ways we can do it to change the perception, exactly. And like you said, just sharing our experiences of what we've been through. Right, I've been through a lot, trying to commit suicide at 9, breaking my C4, C5, C6, my vertebrae, in my senior high school, trying to commit suicide 19 and 20. And then it's just like, I get to give back this knowledge to you guys so y'all don't go through what I went through. You know what I'm saying? So that's how we can change the public perception of psychosis.
It's truth. And like you said, through these camps, they could be, they could all be reached, because if they're coming because they want the knowledge. If they're coming to a football camp, they're coming to a football camp because they want to play football. If they're coming to a musical camp, they're coming to the musical camp because this is what they want to do. Whether it be art, whatever. You guys choose those different ones and just switch them up. This week we have this camp, the next week we have that camp, the next month or whatever it is. I do think that's a beautiful idea to reach it. Mm-hmm.
That's how you shape it, and be vulnerable, man.
Yeah, you have to be.
Cry. I just want to cry. Hey, I want to scream. Like like y'all have no idea how much I've been through to get to this point in my life. I'm so freaking happy.
Tell us about your book.
Oh yeah. Where my Mama Cherie?
So I'm a published author, and that's another way we could get the public's perception. Write a book. I tell people to write books, right? It's very therapeutic, right? It relieves so much stress off of my plate. Like my mental is back healthy. Like my guy Ross Williams, shout out to William Commerce, who helped publish my book. He was basically just allowing me to be vulnerable, and I was crying at times, bro. And he was like, "D, I didn't know you cried, bro. I thought you was just tough, this tough." I said, "Bro, yeah, like what? Like it's real, bro." So yeah, so
I can release this.
yeah, so this is near and dear to my heart. Like I love it because it definitely details the truth of my life, right? The truth will set you free, and it just talks about my life and everything. How I grew up in the Iberville Project, bounced around New Orleans, ended up moving to the New Orleans East area. All the traumatic experiences that I endured, it all talks about it in my book. So the message I want people to get out of this is just to know that you're not alone. Right. You know what I'm saying? No, you're not alone. You got other people that have been through situations and that are going through situations as well. So we're here for you. We love you. Understand this book is about overcoming adversity. And I guess you guys should just try it out. I ain't gonna say I guess. You guys go buy it. Yeah, read it. It's gonna help the mental.
Right.
Yeah, love it.
That's awesome. Thank you both so much for coming. This was awesome and inspiring. Thank you for being vulnerable. You named that as y'all were doing it, and I think that is a huge part of what makes this successful. And so for the people who are out there, if you found this inspiring today, we challenge you to share this with 3 other people in your lives. Share this conversation, what you gained from it, with 3 other people. And listen, we're asking people to listen carefully to the young people in their lives and to notice when there are changes, notice when people are self-isolating, notice what's not going well for young people and getting them into care.
And know that we are here to help you guys. If you guys are watching this and you see us on here, we are here to help you guys. If you see me in the streets and you have an issue, I don't mind you walking up saying, "Hey, Kango, I saw the interview. I need," you know what I mean? Or this is what I'm going through, and we can help you the best way that we can.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mission.
Yeah, mission. Mission driven. Daily mission breakers.
There you go.
Love it.
Now can we have the musical interlude?
Yeah.
Kango Slim can bump the party. Here we go, y'all. There you go, man.